103.9 Proud FM and the Shaun Proulx Show. Kelly Clarkson is already gone good. Make way for my next guest. Nina Arsenault's in the house.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Nice to see you. We bartended in June at Pride next to each other. You really got into the groove of that.
Yeah, I love serving people.
You can pour a decent drink, Nina?
I love serving people.
Because Shaun's not crazy about it. So.
Hated it. But you remember that, so we danced.
Yeah.
We danced. And now we're here because your new show, Silicone Diaries, is coming to Buddies in Bad Times Theatre. And from my understanding, it's a visitation of a lot of the fab columns that you became very famous for around Canada.
That's how it started. Yeah. It started with that. Stephen Tobias out in St. John, New Brunswick, asked me if I would turn it into a one-woman show. They were the original inspirations, but it certainly has changed a lot more.
And we were talking about this off the air. It's interesting because as an artist, I think I watch you as an artist, and you are your own biggest inspiration. It seems to me, from an observer standpoint.
Well, as an artist, I don't. I can honestly say I don't choose what I'm going to do work about.
Right.
I just get obsessed with things.
Yes.
And I follow my obsessions. And
you say that all the time on Facebook. I noticed that Nina Arsenault is obsessed with.
Yeah. I get obsessed with things, and then I have to do something about it or express it. And certainly my body and beauty, and they're like some of the most. Well, I would say beauty is a core value of mine. So I'm never going to get away from that in my work and in my life and on my body. And
so as we're saying off the air, then that leads me to ask you, if that's a core value and something that you look at, how do you keep that fresh artistically? And going into a new show when people know you so well, know a lot of your story so well, are probably cheering you on anyway in so many ways the way I do. How do you go and sit down and go, okay, well, what do I want to say that I haven't said already?
Well, I'll say this about that. It's very important to me that I'm not doing a show to just, be a kind of queer celebrity that has her one-woman show and everyone knows what it's going to be. I'm actually interested in saying things that I've never been able to say before, because when I've been on mainstream TV and even in Fab, there's a target audience.
Yeah.
And I always had to be palatable to that audience and sympathetic and understandable. But I think when you're in the theater, especially a queer theater, people are coming there to see something that they can't see in the other media. And I feel like I finally get to say some of the things that are really at the core and at the heart of so many things that I've been through in a serious artistic way.
So let me ask you to share a couple of those, and then I'm going to refer to something that you said that blows me away.
Sure. Well, I think the number one thing that I want, that I'm working on now with Brendan Healy, my director, in my show, is that I have not been reasonable about beauty. I absolutely have not been. The amount of procedures that I've had, the things that I've been through, and I think I would be insulting people's intelligence if I was trying to normalize that through a one-woman show. So one thing I've really been exploring and engaging with in myself is that I have not been reasonable, and I won't be reasonable, and I've never been reasonable, and
you're okay with that.
And you're okay with that.
Finally, yeah, I am. Finally, I am.
It segues into what struck me really hardcore about this article in Extra about you. My experience of growing up queer inside a male body, socialized as male, living with male privilege for 20 years, has made me who I am. I like being queer, and I like having a queer aesthetic, which I've absorbed and reinterpreted from heterosexual desire. Wow. That's so much figuring out who you are, what makes you tick, and then being okay with it, more so than most people do in a lifetime. The Joe Schmo driving around right now.
Well, I don't know if I totally agree with that as well, because one thing in creating solo work and autobiographical work as an artist, one thing I realize is everyone has, great traumas and big heroic stories in their life. Mine get a lot of attention because mine just happen to be very different than everyone else.
But does the average guy who's had the trauma happen in his life articulate as well what you articulate in an interview? without having really dug the depths.
Or could
Do you
they?
know what I mean?
Or could they if they even tried?
Or could they even if they even tried?
You
You know,
know.
like
I'm not sure about
I
that.
could chat with you about
Yeah.
all these things for
Well,
forever.
I think I'm very self-reflexive.
Yes.
And very
and introspective.
introspective. Yes, absolutely.
A story that you told me before that I think is worth repeating, and you do in this article, but people are listening and watching right now. You told me when I first interviewed you that you went home to your parents because you had realized that you needed to transition, and you surprised them with this visit, and you were so upset. They had to guess at what it was, and they guessed a few things first.
Yeah, my dad, because I told them I had to say something to them and things would never be the same after I said it. I couldn't say the words, and my dad was like, are you on drugs? Or have you done something against the law?
Are you HIV?
Yeah, he asked me if I was HIV positive, and finally he asked me, do you want to have a sex change and become a woman? And then I was like, yeah. And first thing my dad said was, don't worry about what people in town are going to say, and don't worry about what the rest of the family's going to think. Just make sure you get yourself the best doctors possible to make yourself happy. And so that's sort of, the soundbite of my coming out story. But
And I can see that it's a huge memory to relive even as we talk. But I'm glad you did that because so many people listen to this show who are parents or who are younger and are figuring things out. And I think what you just shared that your dad said, I mean, my God, a dad had figured that out obviously somewhere along the way, or had a suspicion and brought his own suspicion to the surface because he saw his child was desperate and was trying to connect. So I'm going to throw out my biggest card here, and he was right.
Yeah.
And I just think that's one of the most beautiful things.
Yeah.
And I remember that when you first told me that. So thanks for sharing that. We're going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Shaun Proulx Show on the Pride of Toronto. Nina Arsenault, our special guest today. On the 14th and 15th of this month, opening on the 17th. And we've been talking about her journey to where she is today as an artist, as a woman, and as a provocateur in our community. And let's go back to the show. What can people expect? People will have some preconceived notions, is my guess.
Well, I think people expect some really salacious details.
Yeah.
And they're in there.
I know I do.
Yeah.
Bring 'em out.
One of the stories I tell is the story that Tommy Lee tried to pick me up that night.
Yes.
That's in the play.
Yes.
And but I also
And
think,
why wouldn't he? After all, let's just get that.
I
out
remember.
there.
I remember
Come
our
on.
interview at Zelda's like the
Yeah.
next day.
That's true,
I was
yeah.
all over that.
Yeah.
but also too, some of the most frivolous, moments of my life have also been sometimes the most profound.
Well, and you're also very funny.
Thank you.
So, are we getting doses of humor amongst the
No.
what's?
No, I think. Well, I don't know because I never know what it's going to be like till people see it. But
Yeah.
I'm assuming that I think people are going to find it very funny. Yes.
What have you loved most about the invention of Silicone Diaries creation?
Oh, I love the multimedia in the show.
Okay.
There's a lot of video projections, and there's this incredible sonic score and music that's all designed by Richard Farron. And he has like 18 Doras. He's like brilliant.
And biggest challenge, toughest thing, moment you hated, couldn't stand aspect of it.
Like the 5 minutes before every time I would show Brendan Healy something new that I wrote,
Right.
or I would be panicking before
Right.
I showed it to him.
Now, real quick, I know you've been touring and you've been in
Yeah.
you've been in other cities. You were in Halifax,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, I did my
And
last show
I've
in
heard
Halifax.
I've heard different people say, "Isn't it amazing that Nina Arsenault went to Halifax with this?" Because we think, okay, downtown Toronto, that's one thing. What's Halifax like, or another city that maybe doesn't have quite the community that is we see here at Church and Wells?
Well, Halifax had a great community
Sure.
of artists, and it was a sophisticated audience,
Right.
So I didn't feel. I think I judged it before I went in there. I thought, I'll have to dumb it down a bit for people in Halifax. But that was not the case at all. But I do think that people in Halifax are really warm. Generally, there's some really, really nice people
I
there.
agree. The whole Maritimes, I used to do my finance work out there. That was part of my territory. Very warm people, like really amazing people.
Yeah.
And did you find
Absolutely.
that from the everyman in that area, or was it just she did?
I can't say I got to know every man.
Well, you don't know the Maritimes like I know the Maritimes. Then Nina Arsenault. Nice to see you. Congratulations in advance.
Thank you.
Proud of you. Proud to know you, Nina Arsenault.
Buddies in Bad Times beginning Sunday night, correct?
Preview on Saturday.
Preview on Saturday, going on for about a week or 9 days?
8 days.
8 days.
8 days.
Very good.
Get it while you can. You're listening to the Pride of Toronto.